Hi there, I'm Matt Keene. Thanks for visiting Creating a Future We Want, the Our Learning series, where I share just a little bit about what we're doing with our home or Puget Sound education with our 6 and 10-year-old. Sometimes I share like specific projects, but right now, talking about stress. We're working on a project right now that involves creating lots of illustrations. I find myself in this perpetual state of, I know that's supposed to be a cactus, but it sure looks like a snake. I think that's supposed to be a tiger, but it could be a zebra. Should I ask? Should I not ask? Should I tell? Should I not tell? Perpetual filtering as my daughters are drawing things. Honestly, their drawings are kind of insanely amazing. And it's all of this is my you know, my issue of finding out that I have all these darn expectations. I have all of these things that I think should be or would be. And then when I confront what is, there's this gap. There's this difference. And doggone it, the bigger that difference, the more stress there is. The smaller the difference, the less stress. So there's a lot of stuff in there. The quality of the difference, I think, the importance, equality in that difference, the importance. Context is very big deal when it comes to assessing that gap, that difference. It's a high dimension space. It's not like a straight line. It's usually very quiet. There's a aircraft rescue in Puget Sound or something. So oh no, it's a private jet landing on one of those 28-story cruise ships. That's what it is. So we talk about like stress, good or bad. Well, of course, stress can be good. In fact, perhaps the universe would not exist without stress, or what we as humans conceive as stress. A lot more of that in the future as I get into conversations about the evaluative universe. So, good or bad stress? Well, if you're pushing the envelope a little bit on, maybe your workout, your run, you're putting stress on the heart, you're moving it to a boundary in order to strengthen the heart or strengthen a muscle. You're opening a new book and reading something new, getting into something you haven't. Maybe your brain hurts, the brain using something like 20% of your body's caloric energy. Does that even make sense? Energy, and but only being like 5 or less percent of your body weight. So you're exposing yourself to something new, and then you're like physically using energy to physically change your neurology, change your brain, build connections between cells. And that's stressful. It hurts the muscle. The brain hurts. It gets tired. It's uncomfortable at times, but we do it perpetually, intellectually, physically, spiritually, mentally, however you want to talk about it. We're constantly in a space of, at a micro level, stressing ourselves for good. Macro humanity, pushing the limits. We're stressing ourselves to innovate, to develop in technology, develop in our spirituality, develop in our understanding, pushing the knowledge fronts and the research fronts, causing stress. Well, it can also be bad. All of those things, we can go too far. We can push beyond boundaries, beyond somebody's boundaries, right? All it takes is somebody to view it as going beyond some healthy boundaries, and then that's stress. It's stress for somebody, maybe not stress for another person. So I'm constantly in that place in our education, right? Where if I'm feeling stressed, maybe they're not, or maybe I'm causing them stress, but it's not causing me stress, considering what boundaries I'm choosing for whatever the learning is that we are exposing ourselves to. So just the idea that there is good and bad stress. Now, this difference, I want to get back to this difference, because this is how we're conceptualizing this difference, is the gap between what is and what could be. or what for humans, because that's kind of nature's realm, what is and what could be, short of the evolution of human values, what should be or what would be with a future orientation, that gap, in a sense, we create the gap as humans in many of these instances by applying our value systems to relationships between things. We see something that is, but we believe that it should instead be this. And so a stress results, a tension. In nature, the relationships between anything, whether it's like two particles or two waves or two trees or two planets, two universes, star clusters, whatever it is, there is something about what is and what could be, and it doesn't have to be. About to get a little too deep. I'm going to walk it back just a smidgen here. So that gap, that difference between what is and what could be, we have a lot of control over our perception of that difference, that gap. We have a lot of control over bringing our notions as a person back closer to the what is, or letting go of that what should be or what would be, and instead attending more to the what is. Now, I think there's a lot that we could learn from nature, right? This difference between what is and what could be. Nature and its sustainability throughout the ages, its perpetuation throughout the ages, related to its flexibility, the symbioses, I think is plural, that we see in nature, the cyclicalness of nature at all scales, the network orientation, the network structures that we see in nature, the interdependencies and coevolution, all of these features of nature are enabling for its ability to adapt, anti-fragility perhaps, adapt, and its resilience over the long term. All of these features are related to nature's sustainability, that those two conditions of what is and what could be always exist in the context of those features that enable nature's continued sustainability. What can we learn from those features to bring into our selves, our identities as an individual, as a species, to better enable our perpetuation of our honoring our well-being and the well-being of others and all life, and at the same time let go of some of the stress that we create for ourselves. I mean, humans are creating an enormous amount of stress in nature, right? We're radically changing aspects of nature very quickly, such that there's differences between, what is and what could be. The is we're creating, and the could be, maybe could imagine a state, sans humanity, sans homo sapien. These differences are alien in the universe, as far as we know. These types of differences and the rate of change creating these differences, there isn't really a precedent for it. The stress that we're causing in these ecological systems on Earth, I mean, relatively speaking, is enormous. And we don't really know the consequences in many cases because it's not happened before. Likewise, we cannot know what to do about it, except, that we must start doing in order to learn how to deal with these stresses, ameliorate them, and lessen them, especially the bad ones. And, ramp up the healthy stress. Us humans, we're creating enormous stresses for ourselves. The types of things we're introducing to our bodies through our food, and the way that we're constructing the world in ways that Homo sapiens never experienced before, whether it's like the type or amount of sleep or nutrition or activities that we're engaged with. There a lot of this stuff is totally alien for humans. The stress, this gap between what is in our current state of modernity and what could be, independent of some of the things that we have done to Earth or to ourselves, that we have created, the world that we are creating. What about those things are creating these big stresses that are resulting in some serious unhealthiness? And we could go on and on about what that, dishonor to our well-being, what shape or form it takes, for you or for me or for us, as individuals, or as members of a massive community of life forms on this earth. Got a little prick from a thistle down there. Got me. So I think, bottom lines are this gap that we create between what is and what could be. Trying to understand, is this a good stress or a bad stress? How can we, judge that, the quality, the significance, the value of that stress? Do we need to reduce it? Do we need to let go of some of what it is that we think should be, in honor of something else that should be or would be, or our comfort with what is? What can we learn from nature, and how Mother Nature is honoring the present, and these differences between what is and what could be? What are those features in nature? The flexibility, the adaptation, the interdependence. The cycles, the symbioses that we might learn from and bring into our lives to reduce some of the stress and up our well-being. I'm Matt Keene. Thanks for visiting Creating a Future We Want, our learning series.